Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome back to another video on Influence, the brand new space MMO economic simulator being developed by Unstoppable Games. In this series, we've gone through how to get set up in loads of different ways. Get a load of your buildings down, get actual produce moving, start extracting, looking at refining and things like that. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of other buildings and some of the new updates that have just arrived in the pre-release client. Things are really beginning to heat up as Influence is now moving towards its actual global launch, so we're going to see how that's all coming together. Now, at this point, you can see I've just had a load of transfers being sent through because I'm about to start building myself a bioreactor. This is a really cool piece of equipment that I will be showcasing in the next video once that has been completely built. As you can see, I'm just going to go through now and authorize all of the arrivals. This is kind of like signing all of the delivery forms when UPS or FedEx or whoever arrive on your doorstep with a parcel. You just have to kind of tick and sign and say, yes, I've received all of that. And there's a fair amount of this to do. This is still something that's going on at the moment. You can see having to do this step by step, having to authenticate every transaction. But now that we have email logon as something that you can actually do, that means you can set up your client much easier. You're going to be able to set it up so that you don't need to be using the wallet to do all of this box ticking every single time. Just because I've started the account, however, using a wallet that's already been pre-set up, I don't really want to start again just yet on a separate account, though I could be transferring permissions and things like that to help that get up and running a bit faster and start using this kind of stuff. I will go through that in a future video. But there have been some nice changes. It means now you can set yourself up without having to worry about getting a crypto wallet set up. You sign in with your email, and that will work quite nicely that way there. I do also now have a ship. One of the developers has sold me one of his spare ships, and I will be figuring out how that all works as well very, very soon. I've currently got my pilot sitting in it, but I'm not entirely certain what I'm going to do with it just yet. As you can see, I'm getting a couple of minor errors at the moment as well as we go through this, but everything there is now pretty much transferred. I just need to get the last few bits and bobs sent over from my repository there. There's the light transport. That is my new ship, which I need to choose a name for as well. So if any of you guys have an idea of what I could use to name my my new ship, that would be really cool as well. That's not ticking through. Oh, it's because I've got two more of those still to finish off in a little bit of time because some of the materials I had to send from really far away. Cool. So what do we have actually going on now then? Because there are still some really cool updates that I do want to talk about today. The first of which is the ability to queue up multiple jobs now. Now, one of the things I hadn't properly clicked onto and realized is that when you're using a crew, when you're doing an activity with a crew, it's not just the time that the thing actually takes to happen. There are other parts in that. It's broken down into two different steps. You have the crew time and then the actual action time. And the way you can kind of think of this is the crew time is them going to the site, setting up, say, the extractor, you know, putting all the equipment into place, getting everything all set up, pulling the switches, pressing the buttons and getting it started. Once it's actually operating though, let's actually have a look at doing one of these. For example here, if we have a look at this, yeah, let's pull up some water and drop that off in my repository. You'll see here that we have the crew ready in and then the action ready in. Now, the crew ready is basically how long it takes for the crew to move to site and get everything set up, whereas the action ready is then how long it actually takes to do the thing. Like here with extracting, you can kind of imagine them setting the equipment up and then leaving the extractor running. So if I were to pull this all the way up, 1 day, 15 hours, that's going to be too long. I'm going to take this down a little bit so that I can showcase this. Let's go just with a nice sort of around about the 10-hour mark there to pull up some water from this particular one. We're then going to purchase and extract that. So I'm going to need to authenticate that on the wallet now. There we go. And once this has now started up, you'll see that my crew doesn't go from ready to busy anymore. It now goes to, I think it should say working. We'll see in just a second when that loads through. But if I go to another extractor and I decide that I want to, say, start a core sample with it, I can have a look, and we're going to pull up some more water. There we are. It's now gone to working in the top left. You'll see that if I go into the repository here, it's going to 33 minutes. Yeah, there we are. We can actually do this. So I can then authenticate that now, and you'll see when this goes through, this crew now can queue up multiple actions. This to me is huge, genuinely huge. In a lot of my previous videos, I've talked about how essentially I will often set timers with Influence. I will, get an action going and then say, right, these crews are going to be ready in 2 hours time. I'll set a timer on my phone and I'll log in again in 2 hours time. And that's fine for someone like me who has done something like Infinite Lagrange in the past, those kind of games where you are expected to be playing sort of in real time. But I understand that for a lot of people, that's going to be an issue. You want to kind of sit down, get a load of stuff all set up and running, and then log off for a day and come back tomorrow. You don't want to have to keep diving in and out. And that makes sense, right? But here you can now see we have scheduled core sample. This means that they are going to start up this process here, which you can see they are beginning to go with there, and then they will move across to this site and start doing that core sample process. This, to me, is massive, and you can see that that crew is then going to be ready in 10 hours, 22 minutes. You are essentially allowed to have up to 24 hours of crew time per crew. And that means that you could have something that's going to take them 5 hours to do, something else that will then take them another 5 hours to do, a third action that will take 5 hours, a fourth action that will take 5 hours, and then you can go for something that will take up to 4 hours. You can't get to, say, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and then queue up something else. You will have to make sure that the whole queue time combined is under 24 hours. And what I wanted to really draw attention to as well in this, which is kind of part and parcel of this, is the fact that I have now built myself a habitat. And I love this thing so much. It is expensive. This is definitely the kind of thing you're going to want to work with other players. You can share all of your, what's the word I'm looking for? You can share your permissions with other players. Obviously, just be wary that you give them the correct permissions and not like full ownership, because then they can just kind of come in and dismantle your buildings. But if, for example, you and some of your friends wanted to work together and you want to build an area sort of fairly close by each other, you could drop your own habitat right into the center of all of that. Work together to get those resources, build it, and share permissions with each other. This gives you much shorter queue times. You see, rather than my crew having to come all the way down from somewhere like Lucinda's Landing, which if I scroll all the way out here, is now there at the top left of the screen. That big block here, Lucinda's Landing, is right in the center of that. That's not an ideal place to be, right? So, because then everything I do, they have to travel all the way down here, do it, and then travel all the way back up. We can also just tap into stuff and move around as well, which I didn't realize. And if you've decided that you want to do something, like, for example, I want to go into, here we are, repository A1002, if I decide that I need to change the permissions on that, rather than have to go, oh, right, which crew owns it? It's this crew, let's go and change it. You can actually just click on that crew, switch to crew, and oh, look, it's all done. I'm now on that crew, which means I can then go into permissions and I can just update the permissions. Something else that I hadn't realized you could do, which is absolutely huge, is that they've now added the ability to paste wallet addresses into here. This means that rather than have to go through like I've done here and go with, I've got 4 crews, right? Just to sort of jump aside there. I have 4 crews in total. Rather than trying to remember the names of all 4 crews, and then every time I get a new crew having to add it manually to every single building, I can just add my wallet address into here, hit enter, and then when I update that, all of the crews that I ever have on this account now have that remove products permission. It's that simple. And so rather than having to go into here and type in a crew, and then another crew, and then another crew, I've got 4 crews. I've got 4 crews, which means for every building I'm typing in 3 crews for each of the permissions lists, the allow lists. This way, you just add the wallet, and suddenly you've got all of your crews, present and future, having access to these things. That is huge. If you are playing Influence and you weren't aware of this, Please, seriously, go around all of your buildings now and update all of their permissions in order to do this. Anyway, we now also finally have our refinery up and running, which means we can refine materials. Here we can see that I've got a load of water available. I can look at actually getting this all refined. I think actually one of my crews has some refining going on. Refinery crew Epsilon? Let's see if they were the ones who had it started. Might be them. Not seeing anything there. Refinery in use. That could be the one that's taking its time. Have a look at the lot info and things. No, not at the moment. It might have already done it, actually, and automatically dropped it off to where I set it. You have to forgive me. It has been like a week since I was last here and playing through all of this. There should be some water somewhere or some hydroxins and stuff like that. No, it might not be. Okay. Let's go back to the refinery. It was the refinery crew, so let's switch back to them. Is it still working? Has it done it all? Oh no, finished. There we are. Yeah, I can't change the slider here, so it has actually finished. I can now go to finish there and hopefully get that all sorted. And that will give us... Oh, it's good, just refining the material, and then it's going to drop it off there. So that is a refinery process. That is going to start changing some of the water that I've got into deionized water and raw salts. And that's going to take 7.5 hours. Or has that just done it? Process completed. No, that was it. That was it. You have to forgive me. I am still learning a lot of this myself as we go. Yeah, there we are. Deionized water and raw salts. I can now start using those for producing things. So one of the other buildings that I will be working on very soon, in fact, I could probably get it started with these guys, is actually building a manufactory as well. I'm going for manufactory, like I'm in Warhammer 40,000, sorry. I've got a bioreactor that I'm working on at the moment when those last surface transfers reach there to finish this off. That will allow me to start making sort of bioreaction materials, but I could open up another lot. Let's go form lot agreement, and 6 months for that. And then actually start building a factory on there, because factories are also really useful sites, right? I'm kind of at this point wanting to showcase a little bit of everything. So I'm going to be doing some extracting, some refining, then bioreactions and factories. Eventually we'll get to things like a shipyard, spaceport and marketplace as well, but do expect that to be somewhat further down the line. Again, these are not cheap. These are not cheap buildings, and I will be buying all of this off the market. I won't be producing any of it myself because I don't personally have the capability of doing so just yet. But we are going to create that site, get that set up, ready to start running that. There we are. Now that that's going, we can close that down. Another thing I've kind of come to realize is that you can kind of move out. Once you get that purple bit there, it's already in the blockchain. It's already doing its thing. We can work. Okay, but let's start on another process here. I think it's only water I have still. In fact, I don't think I even have any at the moment because I have not been doing any extraction in the meantime. Let's just check around. Start core sample, deconstruct building. I think we're kind of good with this for the time being. Let's swap back to the prospect crew and have a good look through. This is the somewhat downside of, yeah, having to, you know, step away from a game for a period of time and then jump back in and have a look. You kind of have to get your own footing and bearings back on one more time. Okay, so start core sample. Let's go for this one. We're just going to bring some more water. I figured that if I just get a lot of water at this point in time, I can start to then like refine that, maybe sell it on the market. So that'll give me a reason to get a marketplace up and running. But there we are. You see that sample of water here. We're going to get that up and running. Then I'm going to start them running on all these because I've got a load of spare drills kicking around at the moment. And so I may as well get a load of core samples going with each of those different ones. Still coming in a bit fast, taking a bit of time. There we go. And so now you can see this crew, they are doing that first core sample, then another core sample afterwards, and then they'll start working on this one there. So there's going to be plenty of time for them to work their way around those. This does also work with food, which is pretty sweet. Finally then for today, let's have a look somewhere down here. Somewhere there is, it's not lot search. I'm looking for the bit, oh, I could just actually go to the crew, I guess. Because I want to showcase this. I'm really quite excited about what I might be able to do with this. Oh, the apatite extraction is done, so we can complete that. Nice. Lots of completions to go with, if nothing else. Now, these guys, as I said, you'll notice they're not actually on the planet's surface right now. They are currently in a ship, and that ship's all the way up here. Let's have a tap into that, and we can see it. Because I do like the ships in this. They're very real-world science. You can see that they've been built from the bits and pieces when it loads. Bits and pieces from the original ship that came through to the Adalia system. It's going to take a bit of time, but what you can do is obviously launch that into space and move it around. You can send to and send from, meaning you can pick up like different bits and pieces and transport them around a little bit faster. I've obviously got a pilot in this crew as well, which is a nice thing to have if you're going to have ships. You can eject passengers. I mean, I can go into the lot info here. Somewhere around here there is passenger manifest. There we are. So you can see I've only got the flight crew at the moment, no passengers in there, but I can transport crews around if I really wanted to. So if I had a base of operations on this side of Adalia Prime and I then wanted to set up a base of operations on a different asteroid, then these guys can come through. Yeah, that's not going to load for me right now. That's slightly disappointing, but hey, it's all part of the beta process. You can kind of see it down here, what it looks like. Very cool looking ships. But yeah, you can use that as a way to travel around with a specific crew. You can carry other crews. You can also carry resources around. So if you really wanted to, you could find a warehouse that has a place to land nearby, grab a load of stuff out of that warehouse. This is not my warehouse. I don't think I can. Actually grab stuff from here. No, I can drop stuff in, but I can't withdraw. I could theoretically take stuff out of a warehouse that I own or that I'm friends with, have permissions with, and then fly it back to my own base of operations. For now, however, that crew is quite happy just sitting there. So we're actually going to go back to Refinery Crew Epsilon and tap to where they are. Oh, they're still in Lucinda's Landing. Oh, that's interesting. I don't want them in Lucinda's Landing. That's a good point. Okay. So somewhere around lot search. Is it lot that allows me to search for my ones nice and easily? My assets, there we are, that's what I'm looking for. Crew has not occupied any lots on this asteroid yet. Stationed crewmates. Nope, it's not got anything on this particular crew. Fine. Refinery Crew Epsilon. We are just going to have to manually do this. And zoom back in here. There we go. I want to station you guys here. I don't know why you're all the way over in Lucinda's Landing here. You should be in this habitat and you should be stationed here with all of my other crews. So we're going to get them to move. I also need to rename that habitat. So if you've got any cool names for what you think my sort of settlement here could be called, I would love to hear that in the comment section down below. Otherwise, while that's going, let's switch back here. And yeah, in about 8 hours, this will be ready to build. And so our next episode, I'll be able to talk about how bioreactor works. I will also go into this particular crew, and now that I'm wrapping this video up, I will buy all the materials to get this factory up and running. And yeah, I think that could be a bit of fun. We'll see how a factory works and what kind of crazy shenanigans I can get on with there as well. Start extracting some stuff, start refining some stuff, and then doing reactions and manufacturing as well. Because these are all different paths that you can take in Influence. It's not just that you have to do all of this. Some people might decide they want to dedicate themselves just to the mining and extraction process. Others might want to run refinery or manufacturing and taking resources from other people. Very much like EVE Online. And obviously, if you're watching this channel, chances are you're familiar with EVE Online. Where you can try and do everything together, everything on your own, or you can try and group up with other people. And that's something I'm really excited to see, what kind of crazy shenanigans people will actually get up to. Because I will be completely honest, the manufacturing process, heck, even the refining process, is actually quite terrifying. Like, when you have a look at how many different processes there are and how many different types of materials there are, that's just refinery. I can't even see things like, obviously, steel sheets aren't on here, so you're going to have some raw materials that are going to make the stuff that you use to make steel sheets and steel bars and that for other buildings. Everything that you're seeing on the market is people are going to be making that, right? So yeah, I will be showcasing that in a future video. Anyway, folks, that's it for today. Just wanted to show you some nice little quality of life updates that have been added to the game, specifically that crew timer. To me, that is huge. The ability to queue up crew actions. That's massive. We've got a few other bits up and running. I can't wait to play around with that ship. And yeah, next time we'll showcase some manufacturing and some reactions, hopefully. So stay tuned, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Otherwise, folks, thanks for watching, happy sailing, and see you in Adalia.